Hi, it's Paul from Hench Herbivore with another round of vegan personal trainer nutritionist question and answers. If you want to learn all about how to develop an awesome physique or just optimize your health without harming the environment or the animals, hit the subscribe button, click the bell icon so you're notified of new videos and new live streams. So question one this week, I'm going to keep this anonymous because this was in a private message and you know, this subscriber might not want this information getting out. And it was to Gemma actually, because I get so many messages, I don't often get through half of them. Hi Gem, can you ask Hench how it is possible? My doctor's receptionist just rang me after I had a blood test the other day and he said my cholesterol is 5.7. I've been vegan for about 3 years now and I've been eating mostly whole plant food since early January. Yeah, I know exactly where you've got wrong, and it's that word, mostly. Imagine I'm slowly bleeding to death. I've got a knife here. I'm mostly stabbing away from me. Ah! Mostly. Ah! But I'm doing that little bit that's causing the injury, and it's the processed foods. So the American College of Cardiology, they say if our LDL cholesterol or serum bad cholesterol is low enough, 57 milligrams per deciliter or lower, we're heart attack proof, despite the 9 compounding factors like smoking, genetic predisposition, lack of exercise, hypertension, diabetes. That's all irrelevant. If our LDL's low enough, we won't get heart disease. 3 things raise LDL: sat fat, trans fats and cholesterol. Well, as a vegan, we won't be eating any cholesterol, so that's very good. However, there's trans fats in processed plant foods. So if we're eating any processed plant foods, like there's a chance you've got it in there, so you need to check hydrogenated vegetable oil, things like that. And saturates come naturally in some things, nuts, etc. Coconut oil is horrible. It's got the long chain triglycerides that we know cause heart disease. It's actually worse for our heart health than eating beef fat. It's not as bad as butter, somewhere in the middle there. So no coconut oil whatsoever. Coconut milk as well for the same reason. Cocoa butter raises LDL terribly, so avoid, and again you'll only get that in processed foods really. Oh, cocoa nibs, cocoa beans. So cocoa powder is one processed food healthier than the whole food. So bear that in mind, and avoid palm kernel oil or palm oil, again only found in processed foods. If we stick to the whole plant foods, we should be laughing. Most of the plant-based doctors, especially the ones that are actually reversing heart disease, they say don't have your dietary fats too high, regardless of where you get your fats from. So we should be eating like flax and chia seeds for the omega-3s and other nuts and seeds for the omega-6, but we don't want to go overboard. So I'd say probably no more than about 15% of our total calories from nuts and seeds, etc. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, the only man proven in peer-reviewed medical journals with photographic angiogram proof, he's shown the arteries opening up again with this lifestyle. He recommends very little added fat actually. So I think if you've already got that, you know, you've got the injury going on, you've got the atherosclerosis, your cholesterol is high, I would err on the side of having total fats a bit lower until we get that number under control. So, you know, over here we say a total cholesterol of 5 or more is unhealthy. The plant-based doctors who I follow who are reversing heart disease, they talk in milligrams per deciliter, we talk in millimoles per litre, but they're saying half. So in our money, 2.5 or lower, UK, and LDL, we say 3 or lower. The plant-based doctors says who wants to be normal in society where normally half the people die of heart disease, and they're going half. So for our American friends, 57 milligrams per deciliter or lower. UK money, 1.5 or lower, heart attack proof. Jason Wilby asks, what were your most traumatic and inspirational childhood experiences? Inspirational? Nothing whatsoever springs to mind. I can't remember being inspired as a child, and I think a lot to do with schools and having to sit there and do subjects that like you're not interested in. It wasn't until adulthood I found veganism and nutrition, and I'm just inspired as hell, and all the time I'm learning how to do YouTube better, how to make videos, 3-point lighting, editing, optimizing videos on YouTube so they get out to the people, learning more nutrition facts, working out. I found my life purpose and I'm inspired as hell, but I never got that through school. And I think there's something wrong with the school system. I think it's set up perhaps to create drones, to do this humdrum job where you're never really, for most people, going to get terribly rich, but you're just a good little tax-paying robot. That's my personal feeling. As for traumatic, I remember really, really well. I'm in middle school and we're doing a sort of little competition amongst ourselves. It's called, I think it was called the Great Egg Race. It was like a science experiment. It involved an egg. I can't remember exactly. Maybe we were conveying it along somehow. I remember we were using, I think this is right, that we were using like pasta and sort of gluing it together and shaping it and just making some sort of device or something like that. I can't remember terribly well. What I do remember is radio people came in to interview us, and I remember just getting interviewed, and I guess this was the first time I became self-conscious, and my mind went blank. I didn't know what to say. I went bright red and hot, and that was a terrible psychological injury I carried through into adulthood. So in the next part of Will's question, he says he listened to John Joseph's The Evolution of a Cro-Magnon and was wondering which spiritual practices best helps me to deal with fear and insecurity. So I'm a big fan of John Joseph. I also read his book, Meters for Pussies, and recently he inspired Brian Rose of London Real to go vegan, train as a triathlete. He smashed it, and he's well into the Whole Foods plant-based nutrition now. So good work there, John. And yeah, I'll tell you the practice which helped me the most is simply meditation. There's a whole lot of different ways to meditate. The one I found particularly useful was a mindfulness meditation where you note when thoughts or feelings come up in the body, and you label, like a feeling. And then you label positive, neutral, negative. And I was preparing myself to do my first ever real public speaking at a vegetarian restaurant. And I had so much fear because of that past trauma I was then talking about. I had so much fear around public speaking. I never thought I would ever be able to do it. It's just something that I never, in my wildest dreams, thought to try and pursue. But this, the vegan thing is so important. Of course, so much harm in the past, and I want to redress it. And I know that people kind of look up to me as as an example of a healthful, thriving vegan athlete. So I feel it's my duty to step up. So yeah, I put myself through it all. And yeah, the meditation, about the fourth time I did this tagging or labeling meditation, I remembered, week's time I've got to go and speak in front of people. My heart raced. So I noted thought, then I noted feeling, adrenaline. My heart's racing, I'm feeling hot, a little sweaty. Then my brain did an amazing thing. It labelled that experience positive. My brain said, you're going to speak in front of these vegetarians and you can turn some of them vegan. And if we jump out of an aircraft, skydiving, some people find that exhilarating, some people find that very terrifying. What we will all find is we'll be hot, sweaty, our heart's racing. It's the same feeling signature. So a lot of fear really is just stuff we make up in our head. And if we can reframe that, relabel it, it wasn't all plain sailing, but I didn't look back. Like I went and did that talk and I smashed it. And obviously I've taken on a lot of talks since then. And part 3 of Will's question, I love Dr. Gregor too, but I reckon you must have loads of other gurus/teachers. Love your energy and message. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for the love, Will. So yeah, I have a lot of people I look up to for advice and for learnings, life stuff. But, particularly it's the plant-based doctors and researchers and some of the, vegan kind of personalities in the social media space. But other than that, I will say my old karate sensei, Ken Bailey. I was a real wimp before I met him, and from his teachings, I found self-discipline, like the value of hard work. As a lad, I didn't know how to stick up for myself, and I really learnt that through him. So I owe a lot to that man. I think that was the start of making me Speaking of martial arts, when I posted on my YouTube feed that I wanted some questions for the next Q&A video, I put a photo, an old photo of me in my martial arts gear, which has prompted this big slew of questions. Sportlich, something about nutrition for martial arts would be nice. Jane Sixwell, didn't know you did martial arts. Did you get all your belts? Would you also teach that? God bless NYC. Demi Seam says, when you say martial arts, did you mean MMA? Because those are Vale-Tudo/MMA gloves. If yes, did you ever compete? Dan Novel Chuck, new to the channel, did you ever fight? And Sonia V, what would you eat in a day if you were training as a mixed martial artist? So nutrition wise, it's the same advice that I give for everyone. Whole foods, plant-based diet. So legumes, whole grains, fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices. A fighter, like there'll be probably a strength component to the training, so we may need a little more protein than your average Joe. So I'd base the meals around whole grains and legumes, but make sure all the other foods are present. And it's not rocket science, that's the best fuel for the human machine, and we'll get the best result both in terms of health and sports performance. So I trained a few different martial arts. Started out in Shotokan karate, where I was due to do my 4th Dan black belt before I tore my knee cartilage, and that I sort of went out of martial arts and never really got back into formal practice as such after that. But I did boxing, kickboxing, shoot fighting when that first came out, which is basically like a forerunner, kind of MMA really. And then on to BJJ, Muay Thai and MMA. Used to be a martial arts coach for a living. In the last couple of years, I coached a little like one-on-one, but I've kind of gone away from martial arts. I'm not so interested anymore. I think it served a purpose when I was kind of coming from a place of fear and wanting to learn how to defend myself. It was very important for me at that time. But I only really did it for self-protection, and it's in there. I feel like I don't really need to practice it. And I feel like I won't manifest situations now, because if you're not acting from fear, what you sort of think up here, you tend to manifest into your life, is my belief, and just doesn't really happen to me nowadays. Did I ever fight? I entered one karate tournament and got a silver. Not really interested in competition, because my feeling was I was training for reality, and then if we're fighting, competing to too many like bells and whistles, you got too many rules, you're missing out too many important things that work well in a street fight, and you might forget. You may be the best like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, and you have someone tied up and you think, oh, they're doing this really well, but forgetting that you can bite in the street and have a big chunk bitten out of you. So we sparred at the karate club. We did like the traditional sort of kumite, but we also did like all in. We wouldn't bite chunks out of each other, but if you had someone pinned and you managed to get their ear in your teeth, well, we'd stop there and then start again. I'm sorry to say, most of the fighting I did was in nightclubs and back alleys and streets, and not something that I'm really proud to speak of anymore. Sonia V, if you only had 5 words to convince someone to go vegan, what would they be? Watch nutritionfacts.org. Yeah. And Koala Mama 2.0 says, sexy, woo! What was the question again? We all like a bit of flattery, so we put that one in for you, Koala Mama. If you've got questions that you want answering, comment down below for a chance to appear in next week's video. And if you feel like this video was of service, why not help grow our wonderful community by sharing it out on your social media, and together we'll help inspire everyone to go vegan for victory.